Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Lori Hendren. I'm the Associate State Director for Aarp. I want to welcome you today to our live discussion on the graduated income tax, and we're talking the facts. So Aarp, as many of you know, we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan member organization, and we've been working to promote the health and the well-being of Americans 50 plus for more than 60 years. The coronavirus has put a large part of our lives on hold. We all know that now, but that's one of it. It just won't delay, and that's going to be the 2020 election. About 230 million Americans will be eligible to vote in what many say is the most election in recent history. This live show that you're joining us today is simply dedicated to learning more about the Graduated Income Tax Ballot Initiative, specifically the facts you need to know. As many of you know, Illinoisans will vote this November, this year, not just on the president or a member of Congress, but also on a new tax structure for Illinois. So currently, Illinois has a flat tax rate, which means everyone pays the same rate, no matter how much they earn. To change that structure to anything else requires what we're looking at is a constitutional amendment. This ballot initiative proposal is to change Illinois' tax structure from that flat income tax rate to a graduated income tax rate. This change will require 60%, and that's a key number, 60% of those voting on the ballot question to vote yes, or more than 50% of those voting in the election to vote in favor of moving from that flat, which we are now, to the graduated. If neither one of these occur, the measure will be voted down, and we will remain in what we are today, our current tax status flat rate. Aarp is fighting for common sense solutions that fix not only our budget crisis, but without shifting that burden to older adults and middle class families. We believe changing to a graduated income tax structure is a step in the right direction to fix our budget mess. We've all hear about it, we know about it. And this plan protects older Americans by not taxing retirement income. Only the wealthiest will pay more with the graduated income tax. So we are urging you the viewers, you the 50 plus population, you that are with us today, to vote yes on the graduated income tax this November. Aarp is proud to support the graduated income tax amendment. If you're ready to hear the facts regarding the graduated income tax, you're in the right place. And we thank you for joining us, whether you're on your computer, your phone, or if you're just listening, or if you've thrown us on your TV. Either way, we're just thrilled to be with you. But this is a live conversation, but we want to hear from you. So please post your questions or comments in your Facebook, your Twitter, your YouTube feed. I will be monitoring them, and we're going to get those to our special guests to be able to discuss them and to get the answers that you're looking for. So first, we're going to introduce about this important discussion is Ryan Grunfelder. He is our Director of Advocacy and Outreach for Southern Illinois. Ryan, thank you for joining. Why don't you talk a little bit of why Aarp is supporting the graduated income tax?
Well, thank you, Lori. And in Lori's comments, she mentioned something that's extremely important, and that is the Illinois budget. Anyone who lives in Illinois, any voter that lives in Illinois knows what a terrible position Illinois' fiscal crisis is. And it's been going on that way for decades. Illinois is over $130 billion in debt for the pension. Illinois owes over $7 billion to unpaid bill backlog, as well as there is currently a fiscal year budget that is out of balance. This isn't something new. This has been happening over numerous administrations over the last few decades, and it is never improving. Even through this economic recovery period of the last decade, it has not been improving. So Aarp Illinois, we stepped up several years ago to create what's known, what we called the Enough is Enough campaign. And through that, we reached out to Illinoisans across the state of Illinois to listen and to also encourage them to put pressure on their elected officials to finally address this fiscal crisis, to address this budget mess. And it's quite a mess, and nothing will be able to be solved unless Illinois is able to do a combination of things like raising revenue, which is what this graduated income tax would do, as well as make cuts to spending where cuts are able to be made. We've talked with our membership, and we've talked with people across the state of Illinois, people 50 plus, people of all ages, and they've shared with us that the majority of people feel that way, that it needs to be a mix of both a revenue increase and cuts. So this graduated income tax is a potential solution, one that has to happen. in order for the state of Illinois to get right back on its fiscal track and improve the state of Illinois. And we will go into that further into details in this presentation, but that's why this is so important right now, to make sure that Illinoisans are protected while at the same time addressing the fiscal mess that taxpayers may be facing if this does not get addressed soon.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Ryan. And so also joining us is Josh Harris. He is our Associate State Director of Advocacy and Outreach for AARP Illinois. Josh, welcome to the conversation. And just talk a little bit about your perspective with AARP and regarding the graduated income tax.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lori. Well, over the last few months, we at AARP, we've had several conversations with small business owners, with frontline workers, with our members 50 plus, and everyone across the state 50 plus really. And they've all said the same thing. They all said that, they've seen in the past, after the Great Recession, after the state went through without a budget, the cuts that directly impacted them. And they recognize that we need additional revenue so that we can continue to have investments in public education and human services and critical services that our 50 plus population needs. And so investments in public safety, right? So that's why they've been telling us they're getting behind the graduated income tax and voting yes this November.
Okay, thank you, Josh. So I want to thank everyone that's joining us. We have a very strong presence, and I am thrilled to see all the comments coming. So keep coming, keep getting your questions. We're going to go through a couple more questions, and we're going to go right to you guys and what you're posting. So let's dive into the conversation. This first one is for Ryan, and you kind of touched on this, but I want to be clear, just crystal clear, why is AARP, if you could sum it up, 2 cents, why is AARP supporting the graduated income tax?
Well, for years, AARP has been fighting for common sense solutions that fix our budget crisis without shifting the burden to older adults and middle-class families. So the graduated income tax is a step in the right direction to achieving that mission. The graduated income tax will help move Illinois towards being whole again. Like I said, it's a step. So voting yes on it could help the state raise around $3 billion a year to deal with the budget crisis and ensure funding of essential services for years to come.
Thank you. So I want to ask, and actually I was having a conversation with someone this weekend about this, and they're hearing all of this news, flat tax, graduated tax, and this kind of came up. So Josh, this is for you. Isn't the flat tax the fairest because everyone just pays the same percentage regardless of their income? It's just 3% or whatever it is. Isn't it fair, or is that a misnomer?
Well, it's a misnomer. So, it's wrong that, millionaires and billionaires pay the same tax rate as someone like a nurse or our frontline workers, our first responders, our grocery store clerks. And so, Illinois' current flat tax has been hurting Illinois seniors and families, and it's not fixing our budget. And so under the graduated income tax, only those who can afford it, the wealthiest 3%, are going to pay more. So that means 97% of Illinois workers who pay income tax will see a slight tax cut if this passes. You
said 97% of Illinoisans will see a slight tax cut, a tax cut. Is that right?
Yes,
okay.
That is right.
All right. Thank you, Josh. So Ryan, here's the big one. There's a lot of misconceptions about this one, news and social media. So three-parter. And I'm going to read this to make sure I get it right. Will the graduated income tax tax retirement income? Yes or no? And why?
The answer is no. There's been quite a bit of misinformation out there about the graduated income tax and saying it could open the door to taxing retirement income. But the fact of the matter is that is false. And first, let me be clear. AARP strongly opposes adding a tax on retirement income, and we have fought tirelessly over the years to stop efforts to do so. In surveys over the years, 50 plus Illinoisans, and in fact, those even under 50 years old, have revealed to us their opposition to taxing retirement income, and those numbers are extremely high. over 80% of people over 50 oppose adding a tax on a retirement income, and even over 70% of those over 25 oppose it. So those are extremely high numbers that you do not often see when it comes to a public policy issue. So the graduated income tax amendment does not allow the state to tax retirement income.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that again because it's so important. The graduated income tax amendment does not allow the state to tax retirement income, and it does not make it easier to tax retirement income in the future. However, if Illinois doesn't find a way to fix the budget crisis, then state lawmakers may be forced to consider adding a tax to retirement income, or even more drastic spending cuts that will especially hurt those 50 plus and their families. And we don't want to get to that point.
Okay, so to recap, the graduated income tax will not tax your retirement income. The graduated income tax is looking at a slight tax cut for about 96% of the population. Okay. So thank you. So if you are joining us today, we thank you for this because this is a conversation we need to be having. There's a lot going on out there and we're just getting into the facts, and we want to be part of that conversation with you as when you start looking and you're getting ready to cast your ballot. If you're joining us, please, we see a lot of comments and questions in there, and we're going to be addressing those soon. We thank you. If you have not, please go ahead and do that. Again, this is ARP Illinois, and this program is also paid for by Yes for Financially Responsible Illinois. So I need to do this. This is a 30-minute segment, and we're a good 12 minutes into it, but we've gotten a lot of good information. Graduated income tax will not tax retirement income. The graduated income tax provides a slight tax cut for a population. So next, we're going to go back to Josh. And I'm sorry I got to do this because a lot of our viewers in the 50 plus population, we are talking about taxing retirement income. And Ryan cleared it up, but we're going to go a deeper dive in it. Just last week, we did a remarkable town hall talking about the graduated income, and a lot of the callers, this resonated. So Josh, talking about taxing retirement income and the graduated income tax, and this is important, do retired older adults in Illinois pay a tax on their retirement income? Yes or no, and can you explain?
So that's a great question, Lori. So Illinois taxpayers currently pay federal taxes on retirement income. And to be perfectly clear, they do not pay Illinois state taxes.
Say that one more time for me. Can you, I'm sorry, Josh, say it one more time. Federal and state, what's the difference?
Absolutely. So you pay federal taxes on your retirement income. You do not pay state taxes currently in Illinois on your retirement income. So you pay federal, you do not pay state income taxes on your retirement income. And, you know, I also just want to, again, reiterate what my colleague Ryan and Lori summed up. So the graduated income tax amendment does not allow the state to tax retirement income. It does not allow it. And it doesn't make it easier to do so. So if Illinois doesn't find a way to fix this budget crisis, then, you know, we're going to have state lawmakers that may be forced to consider adding a tax to retirement income, or more drastic cuts that have already been made that we know will impact disproportionately the 50 plus and their families all across this great state.
Okay, right. We're going to do one more on this one because I see some questions on this, but one, can or won't a graduated tax pave the way for taxing retirement income? Because I mean, I see someone on here saying, you know, the Secretary of State just sent out that blue booklet many of us has gotten, and it's to indicate pensions could be. So with that, I think that's something also addressed a little bit later. And how does a graduate income tax protect retirees against the taxation of their retirement income? This is for Ryan. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead. No.
Yeah. So the graduated income tax, like I said, it does not tax the retirement income. Illinois, it would not even pave the way to do so because Illinois law currently exempts retirement income from taxation. So this means your Social Security, your 401k, your IRA, etc. And shifting Illinois' constitution, which is what this constitutional amendment is, what this ballot initiative is, from a flat rate to a graduated rate does not remove that exemption. And when Illinois legislators and the governor passed legislation that set the rates, if this passes, and they passed that about a year ago, when they did that, they did not remove that exemption from taxation. So the graduated income tax amendment does not allow the state to tax retirement income, and it doesn't make it easier to tax retirement income in the future. However, if Illinois doesn't find a way to fix the budget crisis, then they may be forced, not have to, but they may be forced to consider that again. And that's something that we definitely do not want, and we will oppose heavily. But let me restate that, though. That is not in law, and it will not happen if this passes. The exemptions will remain.
Thank you, Ryan. So now we have abundance of questions, and we're going to go from the beginning and just work our way down. So thank you if you've posted. Thank you for the questions. Thank you, Ryan and Josh. So here we go. First one up. Great question on Facebook. I'm going to give this one to Josh. How will the graduated income tax affect a small business in Illinois?
That's a great question. And, as I said before, we've heard from many small business owners all across the state. And we actually have had small business owners in partnership with us talking about how it would actually benefit them. But let me just say this as it relates to small businesses. The graduate income tax will impact you if you have a personal income of $250,000 or higher. So I think it's very important to make that distinction. It's not on your revenue, on your business. It's not on your profit margin. It is, as a business owner, if you at the end of the day go home with $250,000 or more in your personal income, then you would be asked to pay a little bit more. But just to repeat, everyone else would see a tax cut. So if your income, your personal income, again, not your business income, but your personal income that you pay yourself, you would see a tax cut.
Okay. So here's one. And I know this is helpful for me. There's a lot of signs. I know a lot of our viewers have seen things on TV, signs in people's yards. What is the difference, Ryan, between the flat tax, the graduated tax, and the progressive tax? What is it? What's the difference?
There is no difference. These are words that people are using interchangeably to describe what this ballot initiative is, but graduated income tax is the official term for what this is. So, we have a flat rate, and we would shift to a graduated rate structure. But many people who are talking about this are also calling it a progressive tax or a fair tax, and so those terms are being used interchangeably throughout this time period.
Okay, thank you. So there was a good question here. Someone said, what taxes are you talking about, and where do they stand now? So we're talking about moving from a flat tax. So can you, either one of you, define for me where we are and just the rate for income? And right now we don't tax retirement income. And then if we go to a graduated income tax, what does that mean? Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, so right now, everyone in the state of Illinois, regardless of income, pays the same state income tax rate at 4.95%. So if you're a grocery store clerk or a nurse or a firefighter or a police officer, you're paying the exact same tax rate as a Fortune 500 CEO, as an example. So we believe that's not fair. And only the top 3%, those higher income earners, those making $250,000 or more, are going to pay a little bit more, while everyone else will pay the same or receive a tax cut.
Okay. So another question we've had, and I know this was on the teletown hall, there's all this concern that if the graduated income tax is approved by 60% or more, that now lawmakers can just increase the rate to whatever they want for anybody. But am I right to say that right now lawmakers can change the income tax rate as it is? Is that right, Ryan?
It is. It is. That's something that they've had the ability to do all along. And in fact, if you've lived here for the last 10 years, you have seen your income tax level change several times over the last 10 years. When 2010 came around, Illinoisans were being taxed at a 3% level. and that was adjusted to 5% and then dropped back down to 3.75, and now is currently sitting at 4.95 flat rate. So they've already had the ability to do that all along. If this graduated income tax passes, that is still the case, that they will still have that ability to change rates. However, and this people need to understand this, and I don't think a lot of people have seen this, but those graduated rates have already been passed into law saying if this passes on January 1st, rates for anyone with income less than 250,000 will either keep that, will stay at 4.95% or less. And it's set at a graduated scale. So the first 10,000 of your income would be taxed at 4.75. The next 90,000 would be taxed at 4.9%. So everyone who makes less than 250,000 will see some type of tax cut there. And then anything between 100 and 250 is 4.95. So that's how that works, and that's how the cut is in place.
Okay, so is there I'm going to bring this up. Can you talk to people about the fair tax calculator, and what is that? What is that, and how can that help individuals if they're, wondering, will they be taxed more or less? Ryan?
Yeah. The fair tax calculator is something that's available on the illinois.gov website. And anybody that wants to find out how much less they would be paying in their income taxes or what their income tax difference would be, they can go to that website, and it's illinois.gov/fair tax calculator. And you can plug in your personal information there, what your income is, what particular deductions you might have, and you can find out for yourself how this might affect you.
Thank you. So this goes to the history of Illinois. Let's be honest, we have a history of corrupt politicians, corrupt elected officials. We have a graduated income tax. Why would anyone trust that Springfield will get these resources and spend them wisely? Josh, go ahead.
Well, I think that's a very fair question, Lori, but, we need a plan to get out of this budget mess that we're in. And in order to do that, we need to make sure the burden is not shifted to our older and middle class residents across the state. And so if we don't find a way to fix this budget crisis, then our state lawmakers are going to be forced to consider adding a tax on retirement income or raise the flat taxes once again on everyone, regardless of income, or even more drastic spending cuts that are going to hurt, especially our seniors. So more cuts to public safety, more cuts to education, more cuts to human services. And so that's why this graduated income tax is a step in the right direction.
Thank you. So, and I think that's something that's very important, that it needs to be discussed, that if there is no new revenue to this, there are some of these services that are critical for, the 50 plus and 60 plus to be able to live and age in their home independently, especially right now during the coronavirus, I would say specifically. And we're talking about people who are residing in nursing homes, but the state has a wonderful program that allows a community care program to allow them to stay independently and live in their home. And so, I can say from mine, that is a concern of the future and the security of that, because that program is so unique for the longevity and the health of individuals. So Ryan, this is going to go to you. This talks our debt, and there's some questions on the feed about, will this really go to pay off the debt? We've heard these promises before. Will this go to pay the debt?
It has to, and that's what. Yes, and that's the reason that they are doing this. The state of Illinois needs a tremendous amount of revenue, and they need it to pay for the bills and that they currently have. So as I mentioned earlier, there's an unpaid bill backlog that sits somewhere between, depending on the day, but somewhere between $5 and $7 billion per day. And that depends on how much revenue has been coming into the state on a daily basis. That means that there are state vendors and providers who are providing essential services for all of us who live in Illinois, who are being delayed in receiving the payments that they need, and for work that they have done for the citizens of the state of Illinois. That extra revenue will be crucial to paying down that bill backlog. And then the state of Illinois also needs to address its longer-term fiscal problems, such as the pension deficit. The state needs to have a way to be able to pay the pension payment that's due every single year and help get Illinois out of that deficit and get it on a better funding stream so the state can get to a point where it is fully funding its budget, including the pension, including all of the essential services that all of us count on a daily basis, and get to a point where the state of Illinois is not at a point where it has to threaten people. And I say threaten, but it's a powerful word, where it has to threaten people with even more tax hikes, which is something that is to be considered if this does not pass. As Josh got into that a little bit, but it is important to realize that if this does not pass, they are going to be looking at other ways to find additional revenue with the state of Illinois, because that additional revenue is needed. And that's a major reason why we support this graduated income tax, because it holds people, it charges an income tax to people who can afford it the way that they can. And it protects lower and middle income workers. It protects older adults from having to pay additional revenue into the income tax structure in order to address this budget crisis.
Wonderful. So we have a commenter. He's made a couple comments. So you make some very interesting question. How much is Pritzker paying you to support him? So as a nonpartisan, non-political organization, I'm going to let either one of you. Ryan, do you want to take that one, or Josh? How much is this commenter asked if is Pritzker paying us with the governor?
Happy to take it. Look, AARP Illinois, AARP as an organization is a nonpartisan organization. And, look, I get it. We're in a very hyper partisan world right now. But I always go back to this. We do what's right. We do what is best for the 50 plus all across this great country, and obviously here in Illinois. And so we're trying to figure out what we can do to best support the 50 plus across this state so they can continue to receive the services that they rely on, so that their retirement income won't be taxed in the state, right? And that's what this does. This is a common sense solution that's going to generate $3 billion, in excess of $3 billion in revenue per year, that the state can then say, hey, let's go back and fund or increase funding for different essential services that we know are going to impact the 50 plus. So we are independent. We're nonpartisan. We're not paid by anybody. We listen to our members, and this is what our members want.
Thank you. And we are representing our viewers, a 50 plus population. We're educating people. We're laying out the facts. We're having, we believe, an unbiased conversation, and we're engaging. And I think that's important. So Ryan, can you touch base a little bit about, we know, I want a good recap. We know this is the graduate income tax will not tax retirement income. We know that there's going to be a slight tax cut. We know this is a step in the right direction to get Illinois back on track. We know what I'm hearing is we have polled our members and, talk to us a little bit about that, because we're in the past couple of minutes. And I think that's an important conversation. Where have we found the 50 plus population is when it comes to graduated income tax?
Well, we found a couple of interesting things. The first off is, and let me say this, I can't say this enough. People over 50 oppose taxing retirement income, and that's what has led to AARP's policy. We talk with our membership, we listen to our membership, and we try to find out what they care about and how they feel about particular issues. And they've told us time and time again through multiple surveys that they heavily oppose taxing retirement income. So that weighed in heavily, very heavily, on what position we might take on this particular issue. Another top thing that our members have told us is that they've told us through multiple election cycles, is they find it extremely important that Illinois politicians, and that includes the legislature and the governor, step forward and fix Illinois' fiscal crisis. They've given that to us as a number one priority to solve Illinois fiscal crisis, that they need to be focusing on it. And when I say they, I mean those elected officials, those politicians need to be focusing on it. So it's that combination of our talking with our membership that has led us to this position. Beyond the fact, too, that they've also told us they would like us to continue fighting to protect essential services, especially senior services, making sure that people have the supports that they need in their homes and their communities, too.
Thank you. So thank you to both Josh and Ryan. This has been a power-packed 30-minute conversation. And thank you, ARP members, you, the viewer, you, the listener, for participating, for commenting, putting questions. I'm thrilled, and we're going to do this again. We look to do 2 more. So if you're here, come back, and I will strive to be better. But I do want to give you some resources. So www.aarp.org/IL. My apologies. Let me edit this one. I forgot the L. How could I do that? In Illinois. So you can be able to find more information there and some more resources. For more up-to-date and recent information, here is our ARP phone number. Feel free to reach out and call us, talk to us. We want to hear what you're thinking. I think that's important as we keep moving forward. If you're interested in what we talked about earlier about calculating the graduated income tax, how it affects you, your family, or others, go ahead and write that down right there. That's directly where you need to go, illinois.gov/fair tax calculator. I'm going to leave that up for a minute. And we hope you learned something new about the graduated income tax ballot initiative and ARP. We want you to vote yes, and vote yes for the graduated income tax this November. We want to thank you very much. This live conversation has been paid for by Yes to Financially Responsible Illinois. Ryan, Josh, thank you. I look forward to joining you guys again. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. This concludes our conversation today live. Thank you for Facebook viewers, YouTube viewers, Twitter viewers. We thank you for joining us on a conversation about the graduated income tax, the facts,